It looks like if you have $55 million lying around, you could have a trip to the International Space Station in the SpaceX's Falcon 9. Don't believe us? Well, that's exactly what happened in April 2022 when the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carried 3 private visitors to the International Space Station, and it looks like things are getting much more exciting for commercial space travel, all thanks to SpaceX's reusable rockets. NASA is finally getting rid of their tradition of not allowing space station visitors outside government-funded space agencies, and that's exciting news for anybody who wants good things to happen with space travel. SpaceX's first private chartered flight to the International Space Station after years of carrying cargo and astronauts to the International Space Station is exciting because this time even NASA wants to do it and not just SpaceX. So what makes this mission so special? Why does NASA want individuals with deep pockets outside the agency to visit the International Space Station? Is NASA hinting at a booming interest in space tourism? Well, we have so many questions to find answers for, so we think it makes a lot of sense for you to stick till the end of the video to know more about this ambitious mission to the International Space Station. 3 rich businessmen, an American, a Canadian, and an Israeli passenger who run investment, real estate, and other companies, along with their astronaut escort, set out to visit the International Space Station. These rich businessmen paid about $55 million per head, which includes accommodation and all the meals for more than a week. That should be obvious, because SpaceX doesn't want to upset these people with deep pockets by charging extra for meals after asking them to pay $55 million. There's a lot of significance for this particular launch because this is SpaceX's 6th human space flight in less than 2 years and 5th to the International Space Station. The trip to the International Space Station is facilitated by Axiom Space Inc., which is a Houston-based startup that plans to assemble a private space station by 2024. And you thought you were a little too ambitious? Well, if that's the case, then you clearly have competition. But right now, the company is sponsoring several private space trips to the International Space Station for about $55 million per passenger. This journey marks the 3rd flight for the Crew Dragon and the 5th for this particular Falcon 9 first stage booster. Fun fact, this is the same Falcon 9 first stage booster that flew the private Inspiration 4 mission way back in September 2021 with the billionaire tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman and 3 others. So now, you might be asking, who are those lucky people to be part of this private trip to the International Space Station? Well, the Axiom AX-1 mission was led by Michael Lopez Alegria. Michael is a former Navy pilot and NASA astronaut who flew 4 previous space flights between 1995 and 2007. This also includes a 7-month rotation aboard the space station. Michael had 3 other people with him for the flight. The first one happens to be Larry Connor of Dayton, Ohio. For those of you who don't know, Larry is the founder of real estate investment firm Connor Group. Just in 2021, Connor made a dive as deep as 26,000 feet in the Mariana Trench in the Western Pacific, which is the deepest ocean spot on Earth. However, for this mission, he'll be serving the role of a pilot. Next, we have Mark Pathy of Montreal, who is the chairman and chief executive of Maverick, which is a privately owned investment firm. He's also the chairman of Stingray Group, which is a media and entertainment company. For this mission, he'll be performing the duties of a mission specialist. Finally, we have Eitan Stibe, who is the founding director of a private equity firm, Vital Capital Fund, and former pilot in the Israeli Air Force. Stibe will also be serving as a mission specialist for this mission. The entire Axiom AX-1 mission will last for about 10 days, including 8 days aboard the International Space Station. The final approach was slightly delayed due to a technical glitch that disrupted a video feed used to monitor the capsule's attachment with the International Space Station. This forced the Crew Dragon to pause and hold its position 20 meters away from the station for about 45 minutes while Mission Control troubleshot the entire issue. Once the docking was achieved, it was expected to take about 2 hours or more for the sealed passageway between the space station and the group crew capsule to be pressurized and checked for leaks before it could be opened, allowing the newly arrived businessmen turned astronauts to get inside the International Space Station. This new team of astronauts will be joining the 7 regular government-paid space station crew members, which includes 3 American astronauts, a German astronaut from the European Space Agency, and 3 Russian cosmonauts. Things are not easy up there for the astronauts because of all the risks associated with space travel, especially in a very hostile environment. There are several risks associated with being in the International Space Station. The first one happens to be radiation. International Space Station astronauts are officially classified as radiation workers because of the higher radiation the astronauts have to deal with. Radiations typically come from two sources: energetic particles from the sun at the time of extremely high solar activity, and also from the galactic cosmic rays. Luckily, both the types are reflected by the Earth's magnetic field, which is a good thing for the International Space Station crew because artificial shielding options are extremely limited even today. The other reason why a trip to the International Space Station is risky is because in an unlikely event during a spacewalk, you would suddenly realize that you're gripping tightly to a handhold attached to nothing. It's mostly because you see nothing touching the bottom of your feet, and the Earth is about 400 kilometers away. Of course, drifting away from the International Space Station is quite unrealistic because spacewalkers are tethered all the time, and they're also equipped with a jetpack as a last resort. Keep in mind that the spacesuits are not always reliable because there were instances where the water began to leak into the helmet, covering the nose and eyes of the astronauts. Sometimes spacewalks were completely terminated because of damaged gloves, and gloves, for those of you who don't know, are a very weak point in the entire spacesuit that NASA used to use before. And finally, there could be issues during the docking with the International Space Station, especially for food, stuff, and fueling. Way back in 1997, an uncrewed Progress spacecraft went out of control, crashing into one of the modules of the space station. In short, whatever lies beyond our planet is extremely hostile to us because we were not designed to be outside our planet. But we made it happen anyways, and missions like these will be the first step for so many things to come in the future. And soon, we might be able to see human beings colonizing the Red Planet, all thanks to Elon Musk's SpaceX. These missions are a massive contribution to the scientific community, especially when most of the technologies that we use on a daily basis and often take for granted are a direct result of the research and development for space travel. The new astronauts brought with them about 24 science and biomedical experiments to the International Space Station, which also includes research on brain health, cardiac stem cells, cancer, and aging, along with technologies that will be used to demonstrate the production of optics using surface tension of liquids and microgravity. The goal of Axiom was always to enable astronauts to plan and build a private space station in Earth's orbit, and in future to go ever further. Right now, astrotourism services are offered to the wealthy thrill seekers by companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic, owned by billionaire entrepreneurs Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson, respectively. So these three businessmen took the advantage of opening the space for those people who want to explore what lies beyond our planet, and also for those people with deep pockets. On the other hand, Jeff Bezos with his rocket company Blue Origin is also taking customers for a 10-minute ride to the edge of space, and we have Virgin Galactic expecting to start flying customers with its rocket ship by the end of the year. What makes the entire mission so special is that Axiom AX-1 astronauts are not the first private individuals to fly to the International Space Station, but this is the very first time NASA took an initiative for something like this to happen, which promises a very exciting future for space travel.